Okay. All right. Welcome everybody. If you haven't met me before, I'm Jude Hong, and hey, Michelle, welcome. And whenever I am involved in something like this, I love a good presentation. So I'm going to pull up our presentation right now and share screen. We are recording, as Simon said. So if, let me fix that. If, thank you. You do not want to be on screen, please,
Share video.
go ahead and go off video. So if you see me moving things around, it's our faces, so I can read. But can everybody see that? Just a thumbs up if you can. Awesome. Thank you. We're all together on the same page. So this workshop's called Beyond the Primal Wound, Language to Heal By. We're going to be discussing the power of language and metaphor. We have a 2-day workshop following this on creating your own metaphor. So this is a free intro, and we're laying the groundwork, the foundation of why language is important and how it can help us map a way to where we want to get and what we're trying to create for ourselves in this life. So welcome. And first, I will introduce Simon, who probably doesn't need much of an introduction. He is prolific in the adoptee community. Everyone seems to know his name and maybe have even been on his podcast, Thriving Adoptees. And what you may not know, behind the scenes, we met, I want to say September, October.
Sometime like
And
that, yeah.
we just clicked with the work that we've been doing. And he has been really researching uh, language and healing and a framework. And so it's been a real pleasure for me to get to know him. And if you haven't met me, I do host usually about once a month in Fireside. And I have been in the healing wellness industry for about 30 years. I am a teacher, Reiki master, massage therapist, certified meditation teacher, and aromatherapist. I kind of dabble in a lot of things. And I came out of the fog in 2019 and really began putting my focus in our community. So this is an intentional space, and it has really been lovingly curated. We've poured a lot of love into it energetically, and so it is a supportive container that we're welcoming you into so that you can hopefully explore new ways of being yourself, explore new possibilities and potentials, and to explore how language is impacting your life. So let's hop in. Let's see. And I want to say everybody that's on this call, including me and Simon, we each come here hoping for something, right? We're wanting something to change. We're wanting something different. We're exploring new potentials and possibilities and ways of being in our life. We're wanting to reconcile our past, maybe some relationships, or even our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our stories or limiting beliefs. And so, welcome. And often we have followed other people's narratives and other people's paths. The truth of the healing journey is that we each have our own path to walk, and they're unique. And so the real answers um, for direction in our life come from inside ourselves. And so we're hoping that this workshop is supportive for you in that and helping you get in touch with that piece of yourself and that guidance from within. So welcome. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to move on forward. This is just a little housekeeping page. I need to move our pictures of us. So if you notice, there's a little spiral here. That is because healing is not linear. And you guys probably have experienced that. as Caroline likes to say, it's like a cha-cha, you know, a couple steps forward, couple steps back. We feel like that, like it's just this, it's not this nice straight line. I'm here and I want to get here. And what it actually really is energetically, when as I said, I'm a Reiki master, so I look at things, the energetic dynamics of things. The energetic dynamic of growth is that it's a spiral. It's actually two spirals put together and you're in a point. I won't get into the deeper dynamics of that, but you can relate to it in that you go around in a cycle with something and you've ascended it and you're like, oh, I've come to the other side. And the truth is you have. And then you'll come around again and you're like, why am I coming back to this issue again? It's because you've healed it, resolved it. I love the word resolved to a certain degree, and you've elevated above it. And then you're coming back to it to rise again even more. And the next time around, you'll notice you have a different perspective and a different relationship with it. And so we're all in a spiral of growth. And by being here today, you're entering into this spiral of growth container. So each of us is taking time out of our lives to participate. I want you to know, we want you to know that we value your time and presence. We value your voice and expression. There are some interactive parts, so we want you to be courageous and brave in this space and share when there's time. We honor the intensity of being vulnerable and seen by others. We honor your feelings as real and valid, even though they may be different from what others are expressing. That's okay, and we welcome that here. I do ask that you be mindful of keeping yourself aligned to these values. Please stay muted unless you're sharing. Remain aware that we have these small windows. And if you haven't grabbed a note and a pad of paper, please do so so that you can take notes along the way so you know what you want to share when it's time. And there really is great value in your experience in sharing it here. If this option is available to you, please leave your camera on as a way of showing yourself to others, because we're all here together, and honor the authenticity and that vulnerability of being shared. If it's not available, that's okay. We know we're recording, and so that's not something that everybody that's an option open to them. Uh, and please generously pour love into yourself and each other, holding an intentional awareness that you're doing your best and so are they. We're all here just doing our best. So thank you for adhering to these and welcome. We will start this with a grounding exercise. I call it Ho'oponopono heart anchoring. It's because I use the framework of Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian mantra prayer meditation to ground this space. It's basically, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, thank you. It can be in any order. And in Hawaii, traditionally, the families use this as a way of reconciliation. So energetically, it's kind of clearing the slate. It's clearing the past. Any stress that we're coming into this space with, we're leaving it behind and we're coming here open and clear to receive. And so I'm going to ask that we start this. If you want to go off camera for this part, that's fine. I like to close my eyes. That way I can just have that inward focus. I'm going to ask that we start it with 3 heart breaths. And what that is, we place one hand over our heart and the other hand over that. And we're going to send a lot of love in with each intake of breath. We'll take a nice deep breath in through our nose. And then we're going to release all the stress, the past, anything that's heavy, constricting, dense on the exhale. So we're going to do 3 of those. And then if you want, I'll guide you through and I'll read this for us. Okay. I'm going to close my eyes and we'll put my hand over my heart and we'll start this breath. Take a nice inhale in through the nose. All that love, connection, and light, feel it, freedom, and release out the mouth. Switch your hands. Another nice deep inhale of love. Switch our hands. One more nice deep inhale of love and light. release all that heaviness. Now, if you want, you can just rest your hands on your lap or leave them where they are and let your breath fall to its natural rhythm. In this moment, I am me, the same me as before I was born, but now with lived experience. I see my true self. I love myself exactly as I am. I accept the past experiences that have created the beliefs that I have today. I love who I am right now. I do not require myself to change in any way to receive my unconditional love. I'm sorry for the masks I have worn to accommodate others. I have nothing to prove. I'm perfectly imperfect. I'm sorry for the times I have believed that I was not enough or worthy of love. I'm sorry for not accepting myself as I am. Please forgive me for any time I did not choose myself, for times I was not loyal to me and did not stand up for myself in ways that enabled me to know that I was safe to be my most authentic self in the world. I am thankful for who I am, my likes and dislikes, my strengths and perceived weaknesses are what make up who I am. I am a loving and caring person, and I love and care for others. I am here to learn how to care for myself as much as I care for others. I am worthy of love, and I am worthy to fulfill my desire to thrive. And we can place our hands back up on our hearts, and we'll breathe in a nice deep breath of love. Sigh it out. And as we sit here and we connect to that feeling of love and lightness for ourselves, now I want us to take a nice deep breath of that love in, and we're going to send it out to each and every person on this call. Feel our connection to each other, to the earth. We are grounded. We are rooted here. To the earth and to the love that is in us all and through us all. And you could start to kind of wiggle your fingers. And when you're ready, you can come back to the space and open your eyes. And just thank you for sharing that moment with me of grounding. Go on. So we're going to talk a little bit about the power of words, and I'm going to be laying down an very quick energetic foundation for us. So the truth is that in life, we are the meaning makers. We have thoughts and feelings and thoughts, and we put words to them. We are sensory beings. Everything, so we are all energetic readers. Everything that we experience in life is coming to us through our senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, right? All these things. And that is all frequency and vibration. And then our bodies are interpreting it. So we are the meaning makers. And whatever comes into us, right, we apply meaning. So I want you guys to do like a really quick scan of your body and just check in. How does it feel right now? It's good for us to become connected to our bodies and bring awareness to how they're feeling in any given moment, so that when there is the change, because these energies are really subtle, these are subtle energies, and the changes can be very nuanced, but we can really learn our bodies and begin to understand any meaning that we're giving to words. So I have a list of words. I use this when I teach energetics, chakras. Let's see. Hey, Debbie, do you mind muting? Thank you. Welcome. Great to see you. So, uh, Qi, which is in the Chinese, like the Qigong, like Qi, right? Tai Chi, Qi, prana, vital energy, spirit, or life force. Do you have any thoughts or feelings come up around any of these words? Is one word maybe more acceptable to you than another? Your body's like, yeah, I like life force. If you're like me and you saw Star Wars, you might like that one. Um, right. But then we might have a little bit of resistance. We might feel a little inner resistance to chi or prana, right? And so the thing is, all these words are cultural. They're the same thing. They're just a different language or a different culture. And so we are influenced by our culture, by our family, by all sorts of things, and we give words meaning. But underneath a word, any word is frequency. And so learning to feel into the frequency of something is a wonderful gift because we can't change the frequency of something, but we can pour a lot of meaning into words. And this is the power that words can hold in our lives. And sometimes it can be expansive and sometimes it can be constrictive and narrow, especially if we have experienced trauma. And that's the one thing that everybody on this call, we all have in common is relinquishment, father separation trauma. And then we each carry a spectrum of life, adoption, compounding trauma. And so I always want to acknowledge that because the trauma gets us into it's a very low frequency feeling, right? I think we all can understand the felt sense of heaviness that it has brought to our bodies. And so it's constricting. Meridians and chakras are astral body, right? Like, and I think a lot of people, the nervous system in the West, we really accept that. We may accept the Chinese medicine meridians. We might be a little bit open to chakras, but then push away from astral body. But this is our energetic biology. And if you notice right here, this is a Taurus. And our heart is electromagnetic and it sends out this Taurus. And when our heart and brain are in coherence, we are aligned and we feel really good. And I mean, for me. And so the right, so that heart and brain coherence is something that we can feel into. Like, have you ever felt in flow or felt in alignment, felt expansive and free? Those are a felt sensory sensation in our body of when we are in coherence with our true essence in nature. And so these are sensations that can be guideposts for us. And so I'm laying this energetic foundation because words are the expression of our energetic sensations, our thoughts, and our feelings. So, what is your current baseline or state of being? If you look on this chart, down here at the bottom, there's shame, guilt, apathy, grief, and fear. And I will say for myself, I lived down here for much of my life. And if you look over here, this is really contracted. And so, how does this impact our perception of self, our perceptions of reality? It's a contracted, it gives us a very narrow lens because we're looking through the lens of these feelings. And often, um, what we experience in the past, we carry into our today, and it becomes habitual, and it becomes what we identify with as our identity. I call it our trauma bound identity. But we have an earthbound identity. we have a different identity. And I think each one of us on this call knows it. That's why we're here, because we're like, there's got to be something more. I deserve to feel good. I want to feel good. I want some different experiences in my life than just this contracted, constricted experience. And the truth is that at our core and essence, for the experience of our traumas, that's our true nature, right? It doesn't change our lived experience, but I do believe we can change how we relate to it, and we can change our story so that we have a more empowered story, which will help us to navigate a more empowered way of living. So, what is your current baseline? And I'm going to ask Simon to share some experiences here that I believe each of you will relate with, because I will just give one. We've all been in a room where maybe it's at a party or a gathering and it's joyful, and one person can come in who is really heavy and it changes the entire atmosphere in the room. That's energetics. And, so they bring in their state of being, and it's influencing everyone because our nervous systems sync up. It's called physiological syncing. Our nervous systems sync up with each other, right? And we were looking for that syncing up with our biological mothers, right? And we weren't attuning as infants, right? So now we're having to learn how to attune ourselves. We can attune ourselves. So, Simon, I'm going to
Yeah,
ask you to
sure.
share some examples of this.
Thanks, Jude, and thanks for a beautiful introduction to this session. So when Jude showed me this, it kind of like, I've seen this before, and it's if you want to explore it a little bit more, it's the book is called Power versus Force by a chap called David Hawkins, and he came up with this in the 70s, and it's amazing. It's a map of I think that the subtitle is the hidden determinants of human behavior, right? I was swimming before just a couple of hours ago, and I met a friend in the swimming pool, and she's going through some tough stuff at the moment that she was telling about a few weeks ago. And she was crying, and I hadn't seen her for a couple of weeks. And I saw her get into the pool. I was already doing my laps, but I said hello to her and asked her how she was. And I could tell instantly that the situation that the struggles that she's going through hasn't changed. And it was, we pick up on other people's energy here. And I guess the reason that we're here is to ascend this consciousness, go up this ultimate consciousness spiral of growth. If I looking at the list here, so 0 is below the 20. There's 0, which is dead, and 20 is shame, is the lowest of the frequency. And I'm thinking about that existential wrongness. I heard it described as somebody recently, and they weren't in the adoptee community, but that existential wrongness, I just thought it was a really dramatic way of summing this up, and a more powerful way to say the word shame, and we were picked. Many of our birth mothers were being pickled in shame, and we were in utero. We were being pickled in shame too, right? Or shame and stress and cortisol. That's what was going on for us. Guilt about doing something wrong, apathy. Why should I find my birth mother? I don't care. Grief. I'm doing some personal work at the moment on grief, because what do they say, that we have, as adoptees, we have disenfranchised grief. So it's it's all tricky stuff, and we're looking to obviously to climb up this spiral, and above 200 is life affirming, and below 200 is life detracting. And this chap, David Hawkins, he came up with these. He developed the scale through kinesiology, right? So he's using the intelligence. Jude was referring to the intelligence of our body, and I'm also doing some work in somatics, right? So I'm doing some somatic experiencing, because I'm a fan of continual lifelong learning and hopefully spiraling up the thing. So I sometimes I'm sharing and sometimes I'm listening, right? So this David Hawkins chap, he calibrates some really cookie things here, right? So the United States Marine Corps, the American elite unit, one of your elite units, that calibrates at 175, which is pride, right? So if you think of somebody that maybe comes from the wrong side of the tracks, and this happens in the UK and the US, right? So it's a way out of a tough situation is to join and serve your country, right? So if you've come from a place of that's deep and low in fear and grief, and maybe you're in the in a tough place in London, a tough place in New York, wherever it is, and you join the United States Marine Corps, you join the Marines, with the Marines in the UK, then there's a massive, if you've seen Officer and a Gentleman, right? This is what happens. They kind of break them down and then they build them up. But at pride, right, at 175, I don't know what, I'm having a reaction. I'm getting goosebumps. I don't know quite what's going on, but this is my body keeping the score somehow, right? Pride below 200 is life detracting. So we think about these proud women and men, like a passing out ceremony in the military, and some of them have come from these tough places, and their lives have been turned around by the esprit of the Marine Corps, or whatever that organization, the branch of the military is, and yet they, at some point, they may be called upon to kill somebody in battle, right? So it's pride, but it's still detracting of life. And I know that when I on the other another slight cookie thing that he calibrated in this book, Power versus Force, he calibrates the wag of a dog's tail, right? And I know that when I put pictures, I've the dogs here. I put the picture of our dogs, and even our, and my wife's pig. She's just going to feed it now, on Facebook. That people react to dog pictures, don't they? And people put the pictures on, and we that feeling of as we come in through the door, and we come in home, and our dog's wagging its tail, and we're at for a moment we're transported to a really great place just by the wag of a dog's tail. So have a look at these and see. I've given you some examples from my life, and I guess what I'm looking for is that that love place, and love and joy, and peace place. But yeah, peace. I was thinking about the trauma that we've all been through, or that we all experience sometime, and if it's like a storm, right? Then all is quiet and peaceful in the eye of the storm. That's where we want to be. Jude's co-hosting some episodes of the podcast at the moment on this theme of finding home, and peace is one of the words that I associate with home. And finding home, think of that our little Indy, and the 1-year-old pup, and Rosie at 7, they're wagging of their tails, and you know, like, you can feel it. We can feel it in our body, and yeah, if we're doggy people, I guess. So yeah, frequency. It's a big
Frequency.
big-
Yeah. So I'm hoping that as you guys are looking at this, you've written down, or at least ask yourself, what is my current baseline or state of being, and kind of have a gauge. I do want to say that emotions have been measured in megahertz. This is a consciousness scale. It's very much like the emotions scale. This does not have gratitude. Gratitude is actually higher in frequency than love. And it is one of the most studied of emotions and has been proven to shift us to higher states of being. So our state of being, just to summarize, is our thoughts and our feelings, and the thoughts and feelings that we hold over a long period of time become like our kind of baseline state of being. And then we identify it as our personality because it's the habit of you. And we often will be like, well, that's just the way I am because XYZ, or that's just the way I am because I was relinquished. And I'm not saying that to minimize our experience because I'm right in that with you. And I'm going to bring to mind that we have already done this work to some degree, everybody that's sitting here, because we had to let go of a past self that we were when we became aware of the primal wound. We let go of this past way we identified in our families, or the happy adoptee face that we put on. And when we had to get kind of real with ourselves about things that we felt and kept inside. And when we came out of the fog, there was another letting go of a past self. And so I think we're all here because we're kind of going, well, what's next? What's next? And that's the empowerment piece because you get to decide. Now, we weren't in our agency as infants, but now we are. We're in our agency. We have sovereign choice and power over our life and what we choose to create and how we choose to interact with it. Um, So, as a child, I said I lived in fear. I lived in a place of fear for a really long time. And in 2021, I had this moment where I realized that for me to be my most authentic self in the world and to do what I feel called to, I had to feel safe. And I had this realization, oh my God, I've never felt safe. What does that even feel like? And so I spent 3 years working on creating connections through sensory awareness to a felt sense of safety. And um, now that I've done that and I know what it is to feel safe, I can look back at my childhood and go, oh, I was safe. It's just that my trauma kept me from a felt sense of safety. So that sensory awareness and building connections in our bodies, right? Because I was often outside my body. No wonder I didn't feel safe. I was disassociating, right? So, and looking hypervigilantly to protect myself. So coming back into my body, building these connections, and words help us to build these connections. Because now when I have a moment of feeling safe, I have the word connected to the vibration. So with gratitude, right, that can be a touchy word in our circles, rightfully so, because we've lived under the obligation of forced gratitude. But I'm going to tell you that that gratitude and true appreciation, and maybe appreciation is the word we want to use because it can resonate for us and feel safe and feel good, is a whole different frequency than the forced gratitude that was placed upon us or we felt placed upon us. Right. So these things really help us in making empowered choices for our language, our story, our narratives, in our life. I'm going to move on. I was trying to do that a little more quickly than we did. Oh, I had to go back one. Hold on. All right. Power of words. Words are scaffolding. Do you want me to take that one and you take the rest, Simon, or do you want to go here?
You go. You go.
Okay. So Okay, words are scaffolding. If you see here, there's a little picture of a building, and they are either building it from the ground up or remodeling it, renovating it. It really doesn't matter, but they've placed scaffolding around it. If we think of our lives, our narratives, our bodies, this is our home, and our words are scaffolding for our thoughts, our feelings, and we can place scaffolding that's going to guide us toward where we want to go, that upholds us, that supports us. So we want to choose words that are supportive and that are going where we want, right? We have this trajectory of feeling better. We have this trajectory of peace, right? Of making these connections. And so our words are our scaffolding, and they color our perceptions. So we want to choose words that are supportive and help guide us where we want to go. Simon?
Yeah. And connectors, we're connecting through words right now. So connectors, connecting thoughts to experiences, connecting us to one another, connecting us to, well, it kind of links into the next one. Words help us create meaning, creating meaning. And I'm thinking of a Shakespeare quote there. He said, nothing is either good or bad. It's us that make it so. It's about us creating the creation of meaning. And if we think about if I think about my coming out of the fog moment, was I had the meaning about the teddy bear, right? The meaning I created around this about the teddy bear, that the teddy bear was, this is when I was 40, found out the teddy bear was from a birth mum. I saw that as a symbol, a consolation prize of somebody that didn't love me enough to keep me. That's what trauma does when we come out of the fog. And then 8 years later, when I got my adoption file, I read a letter from my birth mother that showed me that this was a symbol of her love for me. And in that moment, the tears flooded down my face, and they washed away the last vestiges of this belief that there was, that I was unlovable, that she didn't love me. So yeah, she didn't love me. I've got some thoughts. I've got a volcano of emotions going off, and I'm spewing red hot molten lava, and words direct focus. So if we think of newspaper editors say, if it bleeds, it leads, right? So they're looking to grab our attention. Newspapers, social media people are looking to grab our attention. Nancy Verrier was looking to grab our attention, so that this metaphor that she came up with, the primal wound, the book stands out when we're browsing in the bookshop, going through Amazon or whatever we're doing. So direct our focus and bring us in. Think about, The Body Keeps the Score, Bessel van der Kolk's book. The body, it's like everybody's looking for drama, and to kind of pull us in, to pull us in the hope that we're gonna buy their product, or we're gonna browse. Facebook knows that anger drives virality, drives page views, and what they want is more page views, because they're driven by advertising. So the more pages that we look at, the more anger we spread, and the better for their business model. So anger is good for Facebook. So yeah, direct our focus. So yeah, powerful stuff.
I'm going to add to words are connectors. So we've been talking about sensory awareness, right? So our words are connecting to the sensations that we feel in our body, right? So and that's really important for us because we're trying to bring online these higher frequency, good vibe feelings. It's not that we've never had them, they just haven't been our state of being. So when we have them, we really want to name them and create these connections, lean into it, stretch it out, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? And really play into the granularity and all the sensations and really build these connections to, right? These words are going to help us connect to these feelings. And as we do that, we are building our capacity to hold them for longer periods of time, right? We're wanting to up level our baseline. So words help us to do that. Um, Anything else
Yeah,
here?
we're looking for a shift in our focus, aren't we?
Yeah.
So words direct focus, right? So
Right. So,
yeah, I start the podcast asking people about healing, or I start the podcast by asking somebody, what does used to do this? What does thriving adoptees mean to you? What comes to your mind, right? So I'm intentionally trying to drive. So I believe that people talk about being trauma informed. People, non-adoptees talk about being trauma informed. Well, adoptees don't need to be. We don't need to be trauma informed because we we feel it, right? And for a while, I think some of us, and speaking for myself, I was trauma identified, right? So I thought I was my trauma, and until we steadily pull the parts, separate how I feel from who I am. Right. So yeah, we're looking for a shift in our focus. Where are we focusing so that we are no longer a trauma bound identity? We're moving away from our trauma bound identity and what Jude calls the earthbound identity.
right. Into our true essence, our true
Into our
self,
essence.
right? Right. And so our focus, and we called this beyond the primal wound, right? Like, I mean, yeah. So we have had this coming out of the fog and we've had this focus of primal wound but what's beyond that, right? Where are we going? What's beyond that? So let's change our focus toward that, where we're going. And so next is an activity, a sensory awareness exercise. So I'm going to ask each of you in your notebooks to just make two columns, or well, I think that's easiest, or you can just do the columns like half a page, top and bottom. And one will be taste and the other smell. Those are two really powerful senses that trigger our memories, and a lot of feelings will come up. So what I would like you to do first, before you start to do it, kind of scan your body, how you feeling now, and just notice, how you're feeling in your body. And then pick one memory moment of amazing deliciousness, could be a Thanksgiving dinner for those Americans here, or a fabulous dessert with a friend, and then a smell that really triggers an amazing memory. Your favorite smell, flower, coffee, before it's ground when you walk in a coffee shop and the coffee hits you. And try to put as many description words to it, because sometimes when we smell something, it could almost have a texture, right? Or we taste it, there is texture involved. So you want to really get into the nitty gritty of the moment. And what feelings did you have? All the words that you can pour out onto the page. I'll give you a few minutes for that. I'm gonna do mine. Give one more minute. Did you guys finish up? I'll volunteer a little share from one of mine, and then Simon can do a quick little share from one of his, and we'll ask for um, you know, other people to come forth and share. So I'm gonna do smell because it was the most potent for me, although both brought, I didn't do this beforehand, this exercise. I haven't done in a long time, and I didn't know what would come up in the moment, right? So it was interesting to notice how feeling was intermingled with each of them and the moments that my mind went to. So for smell, pardon me, it is white shoulders, which is the perfume that my mom wore, my adoptive mom. And when she passed, there was like one bottle left, pardon me. And I took and made little bottles for my sisters, but I have it and I smell it from time to time. And white shoulders, mom, safety, love, light, lilies, beauty, peace, calm, strength, playful, laughter, soft, and nurture. And it's interesting, as I was writing it, I didn't know this memory would come back up, but it was a memory of being at the pool with my mom. And I kind of forgot about this. And it actually made me quite emotional because I was probably 4. And I remember the swimsuit she's wearing, swimsuit I'm wearing, and my mom was kind of big bosomed, and I remember laying my head on her and how soft it was. And it's funny because I'm not sure I received the amount of love that was in that moment then, but I could now as I was writing it. And yeah, power of smell, Hmm. Power of those moments. And I felt so light writing these and so good. So, Simon.
Yeah, my mind took me back to a Greek restaurant on an island called Meganisi in a kind of near Ionian part of Greece, Ionian Sea, and it was the chicken like barbecue chicken with oregano and crunchy chips, like French fries, what you would call French fries, and the warm air. It was a immersive experience. So it was about the whole thing, like the food and the warm evening, the not the mosquitoes, the crickets, the cicadas, chirping, and the smell of this oregano. And we had something this week. Oh yeah, we had some barbecue chicken this week here in Yorkshire, and my wife put some oregano on it, and it took me straight there.
When you wrote it, did you feel it in your body? Like
Yeah,
some of the, yeah, yeah.
I felt
Awesome.
peace at one, contentment, laughter, heart centered. Um, there's a gentle breeze. Everything's really soft and
Yeah.
yeah, squishy.
Would anyone else like to share one of theirs? Just please raise your hand.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. For me, the smell of spring grass, it just bubbles up inside me. And I never really thought about why, but for me, spring was like the most amazing thing because winters were always depressing for me, starting with Thanksgiving, which is usually around my birthday. And I never equated it for a very long time until the primal wound thing. And then I realized, oh, well, that's why. And so I never liked winter. So spring was like the antithesis of that, and seeing the colors of tulips coming up in the garden. And then also not being sick anymore, because they always had a cold in the winter time all the time. So it was like every bad thing was going to be done, and just the smell of grass just made me feel like everything's going to be fine now. I'm going to be happy.
When you were writing that, were you able to connect to those felt
Oh,
senses in your body?
yeah, all I have to do is think about the smell of grass, and I'm like,
That's
it's
awesome.
amazing. That
Thank
and
you.
colors. So that's why I do a lot of my art. But the rainbow spectrum is like, makes me happy.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? We could probably take one more before we move on. We have a couple other exercises. Okay. Well, thank you.
I'd
Hold on.
like to read if that's okay.
Would love to have you read.
So this is a tricky exercise because for me, taste and smell are so intertwined that it's hard for me to describe one versus the other.
Mhm.
But I chose taste. Chocolate chip cookies. I feel glee. I feel glee at the ease of making the perfect crisp edge, warm choco blobs in the cookies. It's both smooth and crisp. I feel the full mouth slide feel of that heavy butteriness that's in each and every bite. Yum. Only I ever made cookies. No one else in the family made desserts. I was the dessert maker. I feel pride. I feel accomplishment. I feel like I have something to share, something to contribute. Praise. I received praise. And I realize in this moment, this may be the only time I ever heard praise growing up. Your chocolate chip cookies are fantastic. I've got a lot of writing prompt work in there when I'm realizing that I had this shock of reality that this may really truly be the only time I ever remember hearing praise growing up in my adoptive family. That's a somatic journey. So
Yes. Yeah.
thank you for sending me on that.
Well, thank you for taking us on your journey. You're good at words and writing, because I was like along for that ride and felt it. And when you said that realization, like I felt that in my body. Um, so thank you for sharing. And right, so we can see the powerful connections that words can bring us and journeys that they can take us on. So again, we're back with the power of words. We want to be more of an interactive discussion. So Simon, I'm going to ask that you lead it.
Yeah, thank you. So growing up, whose story did we hear? We had rainbows and unicorns view of adoption. Maybe our adopted parents had been sold that sold on that by the agencies, and then at some point, and we were conflicted. We had our view and their view, and then we realized that perhaps we realized that our view was more correct, and the story that we'd been told wasn't true. And where are we now? Whose story are we living now. Now we're out when we're out of the fog, and looking forward. We spend a really wise guy, a friend of mine, said to me, the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. What about the future? Where do we want to go to? What story do we want to live by now and in the future? And we've that's the empowerment piece that Jude started talking about at the start. And it's about those moments that change.
Mhm.
Those moments, those big insight moments where we realized that our belief wasn't. So for me, that one that I mentioned earlier on about this belief that I had that my birth mother didn't love me enough to keep me, and the fact that when I broke down to break through, right? When our beliefs change, and the words that come out of our mouths change, and the words going on in our heads change, and the power of the like the inner critic versus the little voice of wisdom. So my inner critic's normally quite loud. There was a moment when, just before I started dating my wife, where I heard a voice in my head saying, maybe this is the one for you, son.
I had a moment, it was probably in 2015, 2014. I was on the phone with a friend, walking in my backyard, chatting about my now no longer marriage. And she said to me, this was such an aha, but she said to me, you get to be the hero in your story. Or no, she said, you are the protagonist. Like you're the main character in your story. Because I was not, up until that point, the main character in my story. I made everybody else the main character in my story. And in that moment of that gift that my friend gave to me, telling me that I was the protagonist in my own story, I realized that I had the power to be the author of my story. And I began taking my power back, which led me out of a really codependent, unhealthy marriage and into healing for myself in at a new level, which led me out of the fog and another higher level of the spiral of growth. We're continuing on that. And so, whose story are we living? What story do we want to live by? Whose story did we hear growing up? Was it our parents? Was it societal? So I hope you're answering or writing some of this down. And Simon, for time's sake, do we want to talk about this and have some kind of roundtable discussion, or do we want to move on to the next activity?
I can't remember how long we said this we were going to spend today, so that's not very good, is it? I get the sense we're probably better moving on.
Okay, I just want to honor everyone's time constraints.
We're looking for those shift moments. Yeah, we're looking for those shift moments.
So for this page, it is, we want you to think about all those narratives that we grew up with, and honestly, like we lived by, and they may not be our narrative or the narrative we want to continue to live by, right? So we have an opportunity to shift that and change that. And hopefully with the couple of ahas we had in that last exercise that came through, you guys can see how you taking the pen in your own hand and writing what's true from the inside of you gives you a good roadmap toward more of the life that you're really wanting to write for yourself.
So Michelle was asking there in the chat, how long are we going to be? How long do you think we'll be?
Let's see. Okay, this is our last exercise. And then we're just gonna wrap it up. So,
Another
right,
10
we'll
minutes,
talk,
maybe?
yeah,
10, 15 minutes, yeah.
10, yeah.
Is that okay,
So,
Michelle?
okay. We just want to discuss the word healing. It's one of Simon's favorite things to do. And, it is kind of one of those, like gratitude, it's kind of a loaded word, right? Because a lot of us look at it and go, oh, never be done. We never get there. What does that even look like? Um, Even though I've been in wellness and I used to call myself a healer, because of my own experience with trauma and relinquishment, I've moved away from using that word much. I think we are on a spiral growth and we're ascending, we're growing, we're expanding. I like to say I'm resolving my trauma as I work through different issues or aspects of it, and I reconcile it and I come to a place of acceptance and peace with it. I've resolved that aspect of my trauma. And so that's my word. But does healing resonate for you? Why or why not?
So we were talking, Jude and I were talking this week about healing, and the idea that healing implies that there's a wound. And obviously the wound that we talk about in adoptee circles is the primal wound. As Nancy Verrier's title of her book, early 90s, and it should adoptive parents. So it's a third party view. And is it time for our own narrative? And I've had this. I'm thinking, well, I've been talking about healing on the Thriving Adoptees podcast for 6 months, so I've actually been compounding it. I've actually been compounding this, and so I'm looking for a new word, and all the words that Jude says resonate, especially the growth one. I think for me the key thing is this this disidentification from the trauma, separating the trauma that we feel from the essence of who we are. And I came up with this idea of rock, paper, scissors a few months ago. So like the kids game rock, paper, scissors. So the rock is us. Okay. Now, if I go with a rock and Jude goes with scissors, or I go with my scissors, the scissors can't actually cut the rock. Scissors, so that the rock wins. We win. There's no cut from these scissors. There's no mark left in the stone by the scissors. But we're not denying that the trauma exists. So what if the paper on rock, paper, scissors? What if that is our trauma, and it conceals who we are? It does. So it's a revelation. We're unfolding the paper to reveal the essence of who we are that has been hidden by the trauma, not hurt by it. So.
Right. Yeah, we've related to ourselves and know this very well. And so it is that slow process of beginning to relate to ourselves as whole and getting to know that part of us, that our true essence. So Simon, do you want to ask and have some feedback here around, what does healing mean? Like, what does that look like? And again, like, where are we trying to head to?
Yeah.
What's our desired place or state of being? And maybe some ideas around what other words we could use. And if anyone has it.
Yeah. So anybody like to share some
Thoughts?
some thoughts? This is a primer, really.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey.
Hey, Tiffany.
Hi, good morning. What's coming to me is like the adoption wound. I love this paper over rock, like is covering the wholeness instead of a wound. It feels like for me, adoption like delayed my realizing my essence because the expectations of how I was to be, I was working so hard to do that for so long to fit in with my adoptive family and prove my worthiness and all those things that it feels like a delayed coming into my own. And maybe that's like maybe thinking of it as like a developmental delay of sorts of getting at our essence.
Yeah.
Like
So
that.
there's a sense of a catalyst now, then, is there? A catalyst
Yeah, I mean,
for the next stage?
it's not like a catalyst for me, but like a growing awareness that there's essential self not connected to the overlay of the adoption story or my experience in my adoptive family.
I really
I'm
like
curious.
that.
I'm curious. I'm playing with you in the moment, so I haven't really thought this out.
Well, no, but I really, really like it, Tiffin, because in so many ways, and I'm sure we're all aware that we do have developmental delays, right? Like emotionally or in other arenas. So why not in this of self-awareness? Right, and coming into our own and coming into our own power, and realizing that we have responsibility and creative power in our lives, and in seeing ourselves as whole. I do like that. So thank you.
Michelle resonates with Tiffin. That's great. Yeah. Growing. Yeah. Growing, catalyzing, unfolding.
Mhm. Unfolding,
Process.
yeah.
I'm curious about like the language about wound and healing, Simon, from our couple of conversations too. Like, I'm wondering if there's an association of being wounded that feels like being less than or victimized or something that we're trying to like get out from under that projection or that idea.
Yeah. Dr. Joyce
So.
Maguire-Pavo was talking about pathologizing, and I think that's a really good way of summing up what you just said.
Yeah, I notice I'm having a reaction to developmental delay also because my childhood, I like so identified with being, wiser and older than my years and like ahead of the curve. And like, oh, what if I was actually delayed or stunted? It's kind of a different way. Yeah.
Feel that. I really agree with the wounded and healing too, right? Because then we're always still identifying with our wound.
Yeah.
And as we are working through and our growth toward wholeness and knowing that unwounded, right? That our essence, that piece of us, that wholeness, we're teasing out and away from all of the narratives, stories, limiting beliefs, and right, and we're gaining perspective. And so we're teasing away from the wound, like we're kind of differentiating. Oh, this is me. That's the wound, like at the paper and the rock, right? And so I think that I do agree that is part of what drives us to be away from that languaging. Debbie, I see your hand up. Please share.
Excuse me. Hi, everyone. My name is Debbie, grateful recovering adoptee from coming to you from Labrador, Canada. Lots of great conversation. I have millions of notes and they're all over the place. I guess my first thought is I wrote down reclaiming our own roots, truth, our essence, our being. When I was young, I don't know how I managed to get to this place. Like maybe in my early 20s and 30s, I would have this kind of thought process of saying, I am my own beautiful truth, my own knowing, my own peace, like that inner sense of peace. I am that person. Like who I am is not what happened to me. I'm the person who is aware of what happened to me. So it's kind of like having to, it's like this whole bunch of stuff on top of you, and you have to kind of like push it all off, like you're under a bale of hay or something, or a bunch of leaves, and you kind of got to push all the leaves off and go, just get off me so I can see what's going on here. And so, yeah, I guess reclaiming our roots, our truth, our essence, our being. That's my thought. It's a little more, it's reclaiming, right? Like for me, I'm
Yeah.
reclaiming who I am. I always like to use the metaphor of the mosaic of my life. I'm like creating all these puzzle pieces, doing my DNA, getting all these pictures and creating this person, building a person, from these little tidbits of information. So it is a reclamation, it is a recreation, it is a redefinition, it is all of those beautiful words, which I think is more positive and life affirming than life denying. So that's my thought.
Mm.
Much agreed. Much agreed. I love that. Reclaiming. But that's a very empowered and intentional focus. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And Candy's saying restoring. That's a good one.
Restoration. Yeah.
Restoring. I think it's restoring, not restoring. Restoring. Yeah.
So telling yourself de-storying, from not destroying, but de-storying what the story was, and then restorying, which will restore yourself to your luminous true essence. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice. I love that. So this is a quote: metaphors have a way of holding the most truth in the least space. I mentioned that Simon and I met each other October-ish, and when we met, we both had unknowingly come up with our own metaphors for life. Mine is finding home. Simon, what is yours? And you want to share a little about the metaphor process and why it's potent?
Yeah. I've been saying for a while, we're fundamentally unwoundable. That was my big shift, and the idea that trauma hides us, it doesn't heal us. And I love the uppercase S self of the internal family systems therapy modality. The uppercase S self, it's the I'm obsessed with metaphors, which is why we're going to be talking about metaphors next week, right? So if you ever played Trivial Pursuit, right, you got the cheese holder, that's the uppercase S self, and then you've got the different parts. So I think of little 5-week-old Simon, who has been reunited with his birth mother for a couple of hours again. So she took me to the short-term foster care. She picked me up from there, and she took me to the adoption agency in Liverpool. So there's that 5-week-old, like, oh, she's back, and then she's gone again. And what's going on for that part of me, right? That part of me, that part of me, or the little kid that gets dropped from the rugby team, and I'm 13, and my eyes are prickling with tears, and I turn away because boys don't cry, or the little kid that gets bullied on scout camp and gets told that he's worthless and he's a worthless piece of effing ass. And all those those traumatized parts of me, the cheeses within, and the Dick Schwartz book is there's no bad parts. So we've been trying to exile these parts, shamed about how I reacted to what people said to me, how I felt, that rejection again and again. Yeah. Sorry, I'm away. I said we were going to finish in 10 minutes. We're not doing very well.
Yeah. So metaphors are often used by therapists. They're very powerful. And we use them a lot because they have their symbols and they connect to the unconscious. Our journey is one of taking what's unconscious, making it conscious, and resolving it. And so metaphors have a way of deeply impacting us and pointing us. So we can intentionally use and write our own metaphor, right? One that resonates deeply within ourselves from our own unconscious symbolism, and that points us in the direction that we're wanting to go, right? Like, so for Simon, it was this, I'm fundamentally unwoundable. And for me, it's finding home. And that has become a real guiding force in my life because I know what that feels like. And that's like my kind of plum and truth. And so we've come up with a 2-day workshop on writing your own metaphor. It's very interactive. And so I'm going to let Simon share a little bit about that. Go ahead, Simon.
Okay. So people, this healing word, it's probably it's the simplest metaphor that we've got at the moment. We all know what we're talking about. It. We are concerned whether it's the right word or not, but it's a nice space holder. So, people say time is the greatest healer. Well, it's not. So what is, if this, that the narrative is time is the greatest healer, and yet we feel our trauma more, I guess, I don't know. Time isn't the greatest healer. It's the changes. It's the insight. So the changes in what we see, our insights, the sights that come from within us, right? The change impacts what we say. So the words that we use to describe ourselves, that's why I'm so delighted to come up with this metaphor of the rock, paper, scissors, right? And so trauma hides us, it doesn't heal us. And what we do, so what we say, see, and what we do are different behaviors. How we perhaps have more empathy for other people. Perhaps we have more empathy for ourselves, and we stop being that people pleaser, and we put our own needs first. So this is the 2-day sessions, 2 sessions that we're running next week. We're carrying on what we've done today. So today we've been looking at language, and we've dropped in a few metaphors. We're taking that process forward. So we're again liberating from the past, driving forward. We're looking at the language that we use and enhancing that beyond the trauma. So rather than being trauma obsessed, being healing obsessed, shifting our focus to our authentic self. So the self that's been hidden by the trauma. The trauma is the rock. This is us. And nothing empowers us more than something that we've created ourselves, right? So the rock, paper, scissors, I just, and the fundamentally unwoundable, and bulletproof, trauma proof, all these different things that have come to my head as I've been trying to come up with my own languaging, my own kind of bumper stickers, if you like, to sum up where I am, and the metaphors are a way of living the truth of who we are, the essence that Debbie was talking, our true self. Again, going back to the IFS guy, Dick Schwartz, the uppercase S self, what some of the people call the non-physical self, what Jude talked about at the start in terms of chi, life force, and all those great things, that essence of who we are. So this is next Saturday and Sunday, and it'll start at the same time as we started today. It will be 2 hours because we're going to go more in depth on the metaphors. There'll be more activities than today. We did that we did that. We kept the focus a little bit more on us talking today because we knew it was a bigger group. So it's 2 hours next Saturday, next Sunday. And because we want it to be profoundly interactive, and so that we can all have the time to take the prompts and develop our own metaphors. We limited it to eight people, so there'd be Jude and I, and 8 people. So this is the first time we've run the sessions, and it's a fireside special. So we'll after next weekend we'll be running this at $200, but we're making it $99 for the people registered for today. I haven't got a pay where I just want to make it simple as possible. So to send, if you want to join us on this exploration, sending that $99 to my email address, simon@simonben.co.uk. And as I said at the start, I'm going to be sending this, uploading the video that we've done today to YouTube, sending you a link out to that so you can do a little bit more exploration if you like. And obviously, if you've got any questions, then give us a shout. Isn't it? As soon as we're asking for money, get my mouth's gone dry, and like, oh, we were in this fantastic space, and now we've come to this bit. Yeah.
I wanted to notice or bring awareness to Mandy said that she likes to say she's unraveling. And that is part of, we talked about the spiral of growth, and there's stages in that. And one of it, because it is a process of deconstructing the past, deconstructing the old narratives. So that unraveling is a really, that made me chill up, right? Like, because we do shed off, right? It's a transformative process. So we do shed off layers. And so I really like that unraveling as well. Thank you, Mandy, for putting that in. And when you'll be guided next week, those that want to join in the writing process. So even if you're not a writer, we have a lot of activities that will help you build the tools and skill set, because even if you write one metaphor that is appropriate for right now, you may come to a place where you need another one, right? And you may find that writing and working on the language that you're using and stuff is really helpful. So there's a lot of tools that we'll be giving you to help you with that writing process. And then we'll share our metaphors with each other, because we do believe that there's power in being able to vocalize and share our stories. And, something about being in a container like this, where we are seen, heard, witnessed, and affirmed, validated, it magnifies and amplifies that process. And in my experience, helps us to resolve and move forward more quickly. So with that, this was really great. Thank you guys for coming. I hope to see 8 of you next week. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to share and be with you guys. So thank you. Thank you, Simon. Anything else? Anything I'm missing?
No. So
I'm going to stop sharing.
As you were describing it, you showed a slide earlier on that was about scaffolding. So the session next week is going to scaffold you through the process. We're going to take you through a process to create your own metaphor. So it's going to be an iterative, kind of one step at a time.
Yeah.
So that, metaphors are always on my mind, and I don't think anybody else is quite as obsessed with metaphors as I am. So we want to share the skills and scaffold you through it.
Yeah. So today we're just laying a foundation of why that's powerful, and the next week we actually take you through the process. Thank you, guys.
And thank you, Jude. And thank you all for spending time with us today. And hopefully we'll see some of you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.